Self-Driving Cars by Cato Toole. Technology has a huge impact on our lives today. It gives us the ability to search the web, use the microphone to do an abundance of tasks, self-park, play games on electronics, etc. Self-driving cars is one of the most popular future technology. Self-driving cars enable you to drive to your destination, be free of holding the steering wheel, and allow you to do whatever your heart desires as long as you are in the driver's seat. I chose the topic of self-driving cars because the idea of technology advancing to the point that you could sit in a car without having to drive it intrigued me. Most people thought 10 years ago that this era of technology would not be here so quickly. Because technology is so valuable in this time, I wanted to do a topic that stressed the importance of what it has become by looking to the future. What problems and ideas are still in effect for self-driving cars? Many problems are yet to solve. Google in a recent blog said that the self-driving cars need to build the ability to drive in different weather conditions and pavements, such as snow, fog, heavy rain, and highways with worn-out pavement markers. Mountain roads and cliffs are still difficult for the cars to sense. It is harder for the cars to drive on city streets and deal with cars pulling out of driveways, pedestrians, bicyclists, traffic lights, etc. According to Mark Rutchton, interior model suppliers are brainstorming how to design autonomous and semi-autonomous vehicles. But for now, it has been mostly renderings and mock-ups, nothing ready for showrooms. Mark Rutchton goes on to say, Han Hendricks, head of advanced product development for Johnson Controls Automotive Electronics and Interiors Group, has a laundry list of items to be addressed for semi-autonomous vehicles. Meanwhile, he is examining nearly every element of interior design. An issue that the makers are concerned about is how much warning the drivers will need to take control of the steering wheel that has been driving itself. They are also trying to clear up the doubt over how the government feels about the types of self-driving technology. If it is pouring down rain and the car asks you to take over within 10 seconds, the makers are unsure if people can mentally prepare themselves for this. The laundry list of Han Hendricks include the following: stowaway driving controls, new placements for the airbags, expanded leg movement, fully reclining and swiveling seats, adjustable armrests, video conferencing capability, changeable interior lighting from ambient to illumination, a stowaway work table with computer charging, and Bluetooth. When will the cars start being sold, and what states are working on getting self-driving cars? The database Extreme Tech warns, in a little over a decade, self-driving cars have advanced from unlikely in the 90s to maybe in our lifetime in the hundreds to today, where autonomous driving seems very likely in the next 10 years. According to Bill Howard, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration said states should require drivers of prototype self-driving cars to get extra training and special licenses to show they can safely operate the vehicles on public roads. For now, the agency says states shouldn't allow operation of self-driving vehicles on public roads except for testing purposes. At a present-day industry conference, executives said that in the year of 2020, people will be able to buy these self-driving vehicles, and by 2025, self-driving vehicles will be available in compelling numbers. There are many states that have passed laws that allow self-driving cars to be on public streets for testing purposes. These states include California, Florida, and Nevada. How will these cars know how to switch lanes, know when to stop, and know where your destination is? Bill Howard describes this encounter. In-car machine vision systems in Europe can now read road signs to warn of, say, detour 1 kilometer. It's a bit harder in the U.S. because states may use different road sign formats, where Europe uses the same symbols. Google recently announced its Google Translate can read text from images, which can only help with roadside recognition. Stated in Bill Howard's article, driven and self-driving cars can share the same road. The road would need well-defined lane markings. then it's a comparatively simple matter, as self-driving goes, to adapt the available lane departure warning, LDW, and lane keep assist, LKA, cameras, and adaptive cruise control, ACC, radars. LKA currently nudges a car back into lane when it veers onto a lane boundary. A self-driving car would use LKA to recenter the car as soon as it's no longer exactly in the middle of the lane. ACC keeps pace with the car in front. According to Joseph B. White, the document outlines 5 levels of automation, from Level 0 cars, in which drivers are completely in control at all time, through Level 3, limited automation vehicles that can drive themselves using laser or radar sensors to stay in a lane and keep a safe distance from other cars. These cars know where you are heading by map technology. Will self-driving cars cut down on the number of accidents? Joseph B. White exclaims in his article, "Overall, the document shows regulators are eager to promote research on self-driving cars, which they said have the potential to reduce highway accidents and deaths and to curb fossil fuel emissions." He goes on to say, "The development of self-driving technology is being spurred by several forces. Researchers are increasingly concerned by evidence that the main cause of fatal highway accident isn't defective vehicles, but bad driving. A recent NHTSA study of crash data found out just 1% of drivers in the sample applied the brakes at full force before a collision. While testing the self-driving cars, the testers passed 300,000 miles with no accidents." How will these vehicles affect traffic? Will it increase or decrease? Bill Howard indicates that, in announcing Traffic Jam System, its initial self-driving effort, Ford says rush hour travel times could be reduced 38%, more cars can travel a roadway per hour, and fuel economy goes up. That's even on a roadway with a mix of self-driving and human-driven cars. The self-driving cars are better able to modulate their speed, notice slowdowns up ahead, not make sudden stops because of misjudged distances. They act as shock absorbers between driven cars. Automakers might be able to get a higher EPA mileage ratings numbers on cars with something like Traffic Jam Assist. They already got EPA fuel economy ratings credits for things a vehicle might do, such as being able to run on E85, 85% ethanol, 15% gasoline, even if it never uses E85. Do you have to be in the driver's seat when the car is driving itself? Why or why not? As shown in the first stage, a driver must be behind the wheel and would have to be paying attention, so the person could not be napping. The cameras would have to see far enough to know there is a problem and give the driver a few seconds to be ready to take control of the self-driving car. What would happen to the look, feel, and function of the inside of the self-driving cars? Stated in his article, Mark Rechtin describes, if the driver is no longer driving, then the interior becomes a more democratic space with other occupants, says Moray Callum, Ford's Motor Executive Director of America's Design. As long as vehicles are unable to completely drive themselves, their interiors must allow for human drivers to leap into action when autopilot is impossible, preventing interiors from being transformed into conference rooms on wheels. The article Automotive News warns Ford Callum sees the possibility of interior design returning to the era of stylized Renaissance horse-drawn coaches, but a big factor in the aspirational versus appliance question is whether autonomous cars will allow for a sense of arrival at a destination. Will people still want to do a certain amount of driving, or is the autonomous vehicle of the future just transportation? The makers say that the biggest part of it will be that the people will depend on the car to drive mostly all the time. They also say that someone that has a commute, they're going to want to have an area of work. If someone is taking a family or transporting items, they will need to be able to move things around. What will self-driving cars be like for the military and the industry?
Bill Howard confirms in his article, "It is not clear if a vehicle can drive on highways solely by ultra-precise GPS fixes. For military vehicles in the desert, GPS holds promise. The same is true for mining vehicles. The military also wants self-driving vehicles." Bill Howard affirms in his article, "Follow the leader. Self-driving holds promises on public roads and for the military. The first vehicle in a convoy could be driven by a human, and the following vehicles would only need to follow the leader."
What happens if someone is deep into a job or activity with things set up and the person only has a couple of seconds to put everything away and take control of the car?
Mark Rechtin states, "Those situations are fraught with potential calamity. That is why Stanford University's REV program, an engineering curriculum that considers the automobile and its role in society, has created a simulator to test reaction times during that window. Stanford is researching a new design of an in-car feature, which a vehicle can bring a person up to speed, like a change-do command in airline."
Technology has increased rapidly since computers were manufactured. Technology has changed a person's lives by the different types of work they do for one another. Self-driving cars will therefore help people get to their destination without the need to drive. It will especially help people who are handicapped, but will reduce the number of jobs for public transit. Self-driving cars will be just another one of today's newest productions.